Welcome, welcome, everybody. How are you doing this wonderful Friday? We're so excited to have some amazing guests, as always. I We have three amazing guests today, but first, I want to welcome you all back to the Veterans Radio Show or Radio Podcast, where we talk with heroes in action, making it happen for our veteran community. I am your host, Dali Rivera, and I want to welcome you if you're on our live audience via Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, Amazon Live, or any other platform that we're not aware of. Thank you for joining us, and of course, thank you to our podcast listeners. It means a lot that you're here, and without you, we would not be able to have this podcast episode. So hit that subscribe button and please share this episode with another veteran. And let's hear your thoughts in the comments during the show because we love having those live questions and comments. So we have, like I said, three amazing guests. And let me introduce you to them. We have first up Kevin McCluskey. I'm sorry. He's a VP of Development for Good Games. We also have John Bird, VP of USAA Military Affairs, and we have Sergeant Major Roy Lewis, who's a professional speaker. So, gentlemen, thank you so much for being here with us, for giving us your time. How are you all doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having us.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. So we're having all of you chime in here because I want people to really see your faces and so they can go to your site. So please, let's start with Kevin. Kevin, tell us a little bit about your military affiliation and how you're helping our community.
Sure. So again, Kevin McCluskey. I'm the VP of Development with a company called Good Games. And basically, we use game tools and game elements in any event, meeting, presentation, to really enhance ideation, solutions, discovery, employee engagement, and well-being as well. So we use these game tools and activities to make training actually effective and actually people getting something out of it, paying attention, listening, and actually involved in the training so they can take something from it. I have a pretty extensive experience working in the veteran community. I'm not a veteran myself, but I decided in life it was my duty to give back. So I've been working for the last 10 years. I worked for a company that work directly with large corporations such as Pepsi and Frito and Synchrony Financial to really help them go out and recruit people with disabilities, which included veterans of disabilities. So I worked a lot with different veteran groups across the country, the VA's employment program, the Wounded Warrior Project, US Vets, and a lot of different organizations doing wonderful stuff for job seekers who are veterans looking for jobs and really help them connect with some really great opportunities to get hired and make a nice career out of it when they have that struggle transitioning back into our civilian life.
I love that. You mentioned, our disabled veterans. So what type of challenges have you seen veterans have where, Good Games has been able to help them overcome so that they can get employment?
Yeah, I think as we prep for the call today, we talked a lot about that transition and how difficult it is for veterans to come back to civilian life. And I had the opportunity to work with a lot of veterans out there who had just an amazing amount of experience. The resumes were chock full of stuff I didn't know what was, but it was very impressive once they talked to me about it. And I realized that was one of the biggest difficulties is taking that wonderful experience. It was 5, 10, 15, 20, 35 years experience, and then taking that and putting it into the civilian world. That seemed like the biggest difficulty. And there's also, I don't want a stigma around it, but a lot of the veterans I talked to, again, had this wonderful and great experience, but they would go find jobs and they'd be like, oh yeah, we got security jobs and warehouse jobs, but not really understanding the vast experience and just skills these individuals have coming from the military space and what they can actually bring to some of the companies. So it's really hard, partnering and bridging that language and that communication between the companies and the veterans themselves.
Yeah. So do you help veterans with disabilities from anywhere in the country?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is my old role of helping them, job seekers, match with employers that we were working with. Now with Good Games, we really focus on getting to the bottom of a problem using game tools. So we have a wonderful mental health program that we do to really help people focus on what they're going through, but also learning how to support each other as well. And it's really interesting, like the civilian numbers versus the veteran numbers, where veterans are definitely going through a lot of mental health as well as the civilians. But when it comes to supporting each other, the veterans have had much more experience supporting each other versus the civilians, which is very interesting. So we use our tools to really educate employers on how to go out and successfully and do it the right way of hiring veterans, and also helping veterans, with their job seeking skills to make sure they're able to match those skills to what the employers are looking for. So we use these game tools to really help make that much more easier to do rather than just going to a regular training and having someone talk to you forever.
Yeah, yeah, that's one of the things that I think deters some people from going to places like that because it's very boring. It's not very engaging, and I myself, I find that if I go to a certain type of training, if it is actionable, where I'm actually learning a specific skill, it's that's where I find the value in it. Would you be able to share maybe one short story of one successful, I guess, experience that you've had with a certain person that you've helped?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll go back. One of my first experiences with veterans was in Las Vegas. So I was working with a company who was building a brand new facility, and I ended up partnering with the Wounded Warrior Project, which was just an amazing partner for me for the past 10+ years. And I went into a group full of veterans, and to me, they looked like WWE wrestlers, just like huge, huge individuals, ready to go, really energized. And I came in thinking, what am I going to teach these guys? I have no right being here. So what I did was just really what I always do, just connect with people, get down to that personal level. Like, I know what I know, but what are your issues? What are the issues in the room right now? And that's where it came out, where they were very quiet at first and I didn't want to say anything, but one guy started it off and started talking about his experience. Like I said before, all I get offered is security jobs, and I'm blah, blah, blah. I have all this experience, and all I do is get these opportunities handed to me when I'm way above where I should be. So that opened up the conversation for everyone to share what they're going through. And I was like, this is great. This is what we need employers to know, right? I know what I know, you know, you do. So from that experience, it just was a vent session, which is really great because our tools allow people to share anonymous feelings, right?
Mhm.
They're able to get out there and share their thoughts without being attached to them or someone else thinking something different about them. So it's an anonymous feature to our games that really allow people to express their thoughts without ridicule again. So that opportunity opened up a lot of conversation, and we're able to get down to it, right? So let's cut through the BS. Let's get right to it and help you find a great employment. And within that room, I think 90% of those individuals found a job with the employer that I was working
Wow.
with. So it was just a really great experience to keep that honest conversation where veterans sometimes could be guarded, especially coming out into the civilian world and trying to get jobs and trying to find their space within the civilian world, because it is completely different. That was kind of a education I needed myself. So it was a really success story, and we hired a bunch of veterans in Las Vegas for that company. So one of my proudest moments, and continue to love working with this community.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for doing that because I remember when I got out, it was so difficult because as you've probably seen this so much where it's hard for us to understand how to translate our skills to civilian, wordage, and just like the resume alone
Mhm.
to this day overwhelms me just the thought of having to write one. But so
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
there a specific niche or field of work that you're seeing a lot of veterans leaning more towards?
No, I think that's kind of I guess a stigma or myth again around veterans and what they are capable of. Because as you know, there's tons and tons of different jobs that the veterans can do, from HR to warehouse to safety to security to logistics, all these different things. So it's kind of a little stigma of veterans of what we think they do in the military, not just going over and fighting wars. It's a lot of other stuff going on, a lot of different occupations, a lot of different skills and backgrounds. And more importantly, if they're trained. Like, there's a lot of employers out there that hire people and don't train them at all.
Hmm.
These the veterans are coming pre-trained with all these skills and qualifications and all that stuff. So, no, I would say that that's kind of a thing that HR should be aware of, is when they're hiring people, there's veterans come with all different backgrounds and skills. And I read an interesting stat. I think it's about 75% of HR people don't think their military individuals are qualified for specific jobs,
Wow.
but it also said 50% don't know how to read veteran resumes. So it's like there's a big disconnect there of, like, I think it's one of the things where they just look at the resume and they're like, I don't know what this means. I'm
Mhm.
going to go on to the next person, unfortunately. So that's a lot of great education. There's a lot of great tools. There's a lot of great organizations out there helping with that translation. But it is kind of still a big speed bump to finding some veterans some right employment right there, so they're not underemployed as well.
Right. So, how soon before separating from the military can somebody reach out to you?
Oh, whenever's good. I know I've heard okay some good experiences, but I've heard a lot of bad experiences in that whole transition process. That they're kind of just told stuff and they go out and not have the tools they need to be successful. So yeah, they can reach out to us at any time.
And where is the best place to reach out to you?
Goodfocusgames.com is our website, and my email is kevin@goodfocus.net.
Wonderful. And your website again?
It's
There we
goodfocusgames.com.
go. I just wanted you to repeat it because I want people to go ahead and check it out, share the link.
Appreciate that.
And Kevin, thank you so much for sharing about this amazing resource and for helping our community. We'll have to have you again some other time to share more about it. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And up next, we have John Bird. He is the VP of USAA Military Relations. If you are familiar with that bank, then I mean, I get excited. I bank with them. I've been banking with them for so many years. So I can't wait to hear what John has to share about his work with the military community through UCAA. John, welcome. How are you?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate you doing this show and helping out our veterans.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit, how in the world did you start working for USAA? I don't know too many people who work for USAA, but how did that evolve?
Well, thank you. I had the pleasure, the honor, and the privilege to serve 35 years in the Navy. And following my retirement from the Navy, USA actually reached out to me and said they were looking for somebody to lead their military affairs team. So 11 years ago, I was hired by USAA. I had been a USA member for my entire life. My father was in the Navy, and so I came from a USA family. So it was an easy for me to say yes to USA, and I've been very thankful that I've been with them ever since. So great company, and great to be part of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. That's really cool. So what exactly do you do when, this term military affairs, what does that entail?
Sure. So USAA was founded by the military, 25 Army officers over 100 years ago, because military members were struggling to get the right kind of insurance. So today we provide insurance, we provide banking, as you mentioned. The insurance is auto, personal property. And then beyond that, we advocate for the military and we donate lots of money, 40 to $50 million a year to military efforts to help veterans and the military community. My little team is spread out across the country. It's a number of senior enlisted and officer retired. And we build that relationship with the military community so we better understand their needs. And at the same time, internal to USAA, we have some employees that did not serve. And so we work with them to make sure they understand the military so that we can better serve them. Now, when we talk about veterans at USA, we include those that actually served in military spouses. Because as you well know, military spouses serve right alongside their principal and oftentimes have a better understanding of the challenges of the military than the member does themselves. And so they're outstanding employees at USAA.
Yeah. Yeah, I have had the privilege of banking with them, and I can attest that it's very different on how they treat you versus another bank. And I think a lot of
Yes.
people don't realize when they say, "Well, why would you want a virtual bank?" I'm like, "Oh, there's so many benefits to it." And I like the aspect of the compassion because I've had some financial hardship. And I remember calling and explaining my situation, and it was just incredible how willing they were to help me, avoid, say, not paying a credit card or my car payment or my insurance or whatever it was. I definitely struggled during the market crash of what, 606. And
Yes.
that's when I discovered how different it is to work with USAA versus, say, like Chase or another bank. Um,
Well, thank you. And I would add that we pride ourselves on understanding the challenges of the military family, the military community, and helping them deal with it. As we faced, and it's not going to happen, this government shutdown, we created a no interest loan. So if you did direct deposit with our bank with your military pay or your whatever, and that pay wasn't going to show up, we were going to put that amount into your account and not charge you any interest and then allow you to pay it back when you finally got paid by the government. So that's the kind of service USA provides to the military community because again, our roots, our DNA is the military community. And so my team has the privilege of helping facilitate that, the relationships out there with the various organizations, and then internal to the company.
mhm. Yeah. Is there anything in particular that you would like to clear up, maybe like a myth or a misconception or misunderstanding of USAA that you'd like to share right now with our public?
Well, I think the most important thing to understand is we are a private company and we're all about serving the military. We're not beholden to stockholders. Our goal is not to return money to people that invested in us. The only people invested in USA are people like you, our members. So our goal is job one. We have a mission, which is the financial security of our members. And that's what our employees work toward. Now, we have to stay solvent. We can't lose money all the time, but we go out of the way to put the member first and meet the financial security needs of our members. Now, that doesn't mean everything is always perfect, but we do our very best. And, obviously, if you're not insured with us, we can't help you. But if you have the insurance or you bank with us, we're going to go out of our way to put our members first.
I've experienced that as well. I remember doing a claim on a flood in my basement, and others in my neighborhood had the same issue. And the solution, like taking care of all the contracting and payout and all that, was so much faster than my neighbors, and I was very surprised too. So again, I can't say enough about USA. I've had a great experience. I still bank with them. My kids have it too because why not? If it has
Well, thank you. And I would
yeah.
say that USAA, beyond the product and services, as I said, we give a large amount of money to veteran service and military service organizations. I had the pleasure the last 2 nights of attending events in Washington, D.C. The first was the Chamber hiring our heroes with the focus of veteran and military spouse transition. USA strongly supports that. Veteran unemployment is satisfactory. Spouse unemployment is way too high, and there's a lot of friction and obstacles. We work on that. And then last night, I was at the Armed Services YMCA Angels in the Battlefield, where we recognize Army medics, Navy corpsmen, PJs for their great service. And the Armed Services YMCA supports the junior enlisted with things like food, programs, childcare. One of the biggest frictions to spouse unemployment is childcare. So USAA is a player in all those spaces beyond our products and services, because the best thing for veteran transition is spouse employment.
Mhm.
If the spouse is employed, the veteran transition goes smooth.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And thank you so much for sharing about all the behind the scenes work that USAA is doing, because I think most people only think about, okay, they provide great banking and loans and all this, and not the charity work. And that's really important to so many of us, because those are also the people that we do look for employment. So speaking of employment, does USAA have opportunities of remote working for anybody that wants to? And if so,
Yes,
where can
we
they?
do. And I would say if you're a military spouse, you're guaranteed that. So if
Wow.
you have to move, that's okay. You take your job with us, and we give you 1 to 2 weeks of leave, paid leave, to make that move. Now, for others, it's on a case by case basis. Some work at the headquarters, but we have offices in Colorado Springs, Plano, Tampa, Chesapeake, and San Antonio. So we're always looking to hire a veterans and military spouse, from call center to security to cyber, all sorts of job opportunities. And we encourage you to look at USA Jobs on our website.
Okay, great. I didn't know there were so many offices. Thank you so much for sharing. I thought it was just San
Yes, we
Antonio.
have 38,000 employees at USAA, and we hire between 6 and 8,000 a year.
Okay, wow. All right. So again, you said where should they go? What website? USA.com, or is there a different
Go
one?
to our USA.com and then look up USA Jobs. They'll find it on the website, and then they can see what opportunities exist.
Great. Thank you so much, John. I really appreciate it. Thank you for sharing all this information and for doing all the work that you're doing with USA.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
And up next, we have Sergeant Major Roy Lewis, who is a professional speaker. So, Sergeant Major, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dolly. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. Oh my gosh. So, Sergeant Major, thank you so much for your service.
Thank
Uh,
you for your
uh,
service as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So tell us a little bit. First, I want to know, did you ever think you would get as high as Sergeant Major when you joined the military?
You know, Dolly, that is a fantastic question because it's one of my stories that I tell. I remember the day, and you probably remember this, the day going reporting to duty, you're going into the recruiting center. And I remember standing in line with all those new recruits. And I remember that, you know, how they hang the ranks on the wall.
Mm,
And I remember just saying, I saw the sergeant major rank and I said, oh my gosh, I'll never make that. That was just thousands of miles away.
mm.
And lo and behold, here it is. I mean, I'm amazed. So it's been a great journey.
Yeah, I bet. I bet. Yeah, because I remember also standing there and I was like, nope, I'm only doing 3 years and I'm out. And then 10 years later, I was like, how did that happen?
Eh,
Like,
Exactly.
yeah.
It's weird. And you sit there, you go through. I remember just seeing a E7 and I was just amazed. Sitting
Yeah.
there, going, oh my gosh, that's a staff sergeant. Oh my God, that's a
Right?
sergeant first class. But
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny how life takes you places.
It definitely is. It definitely is. So tell me, as a veteran, having how many years did you complete?
I have done a total of 36 years. And
Wow. Oh my gosh.
yeah, I've done all three components. I've done the active duty,
Mm,
I've done the National Guard, and I've done the reserves as well.
that's awesome. You have a lot of experience. So as a veteran, how do you see your role in today's world?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I have a lot of years. They had to kick me out. When you're older than a colonel, they got to,
Mhm.
it's time to go.
You're making them look bad. You're making them
Yeah,
look
right,
bad.
exactly. But my role is now that I retired as of 2019, and my role now is to kind of be a coach, trainer, and mentor. I am shocked. I know I've listened to the other guys speak and stuff, and I am totally shocked when I meet vets how they don't know they're aware of their benefits.
Hmm.
And I don't know if you've run into this. You find vets is like, oh, I just served 2 years, no big deal. Or I served 4 years, it's no big deal. And I say, bull butter, it is a big deal, because they don't realize their benefits. And I immediately, now that I'm a sergeant major, I can yell at people. I march them down to go contact their VA administrators, the local VA office to get information. And especially, I know in this country we deal with a lot of homeless vets and stuff like that. I just got finished working with a vet that was just homeless, and he's doing very, very well. But we had conversations where he had no idea of what his entitlements were, and I'm just blown away by that. So that's one of my roles, is to be a coach and a mentor. I have a son that's active duty. He is on the officer side of the house, but I'm his, I guess, his personal mentor. When he gets into issues, we talk leadership stuff. We talk Army talk.
How lucky.
Yeah, and then the next generation that's coming into the military. I find that I'm an advocate for the military because I know a lot of kids are, especially what's going on in the world today, and a lot of young people are trying to find out who they are, what they want to do, and I've had so many conversations with young people like, hey, you ever thought about the military? And they're like, no, no. And the response I get, they think of Full Metal Jacket, or they'll think about some war movie or whatever. And I said, the military is nothing like that. So I have these wonderful conversations, breaking it down, telling them how the military works, how they can get some job skills, because that's how I came into the military. I
Hmm.
did 2 years of college myself, and things weren't going so well. So I went down, talked to a recruiter, and I'm saying, hey, I can do this. And the rest is history. So I try to share my experiences with them that hey, life's not over yet. So what, you weren't the big football star or basketball star or whatever. However, there's something that you do well, and the military wants you.
Yeah, exactly. So, what is the value you feel our veterans have to contribute today?
Uh, that's a great question. And I think that one of the values I want to say to all vets that are watching this program is that you are a viable asset. You may not think so. And I heard that the last speaker he was talking about, or the first speaker, he was talking about people were coming into the professional world and they weren't, taking jobs, low paying jobs or whatever. And I ran into that because I got out in 2019 and I transitioned over to the corporate world. I worked for Bank of America. Everybody's heard of Bank of America. And one of the things that I had to do, I had to transfer or translate my skill sets into the civilian sector. And I know that vets, you have to understand, number one, you're a viable asset. And then number two, you need to decode those skill sets. For example, like I started out in supply when I was a private, but I didn't know when you translate it over to the civilian world, that's called logistics.
Yep.
Or if you're in civil affairs and you've worked in that MOS, that's called project management. Mm-hmm. So you have to sit down and maybe work with someone or someone that that's been in the military to help you translate those skill sets into the civilian sector, because they are viable skill sets. They are usable. No, you'd be surprised once you sit down and break down an MOS. I've got friends in HR that key in on keywords to understand what people do or have done in the military. So that's what you have to do. And thirdly, vets have to understand that every company, I know Bank of America does because I used to be part of their program. Every company has a veterans section in HR. I know that Bank of America gives preference to veterans hiring practices, and their hiring practices, they give preference to veterans, and it works. They put that first. I know Bank of America definitely prides themselves on that. Wachovia, not Wachovia, I'm showing my age, but Wells Fargo does the same thing. So if you're interested in applying for jobs, it's important. Do not downplay being a veteran. That is a plus. And I don't mean to be long-winded, but I can hear somebody say, well, why is that a plus? Well, it's very simple, because in the veterans, we have they're called soft skills. Mm-hmm. And every veteran has soft skills. We have discipline. We have attention to detail. We have that concept of ownership. I can tell looking at you that you're a vet, that if I give you something to do, you own it, you bring it back to me, it's done, did, and then it's in the books because you've taken ownership of it. You've been trained that way. Mm-hmm. And then last, due diligence. That means that you remember when you were in the military, I remember when my son joined the military, I used to say, I don't know, it's not in your vocabulary. Go figure it out.
Right.
Go figure it out. Military people are the greatest at that. That's what we call a soft skill. Mm-hmm. So with all that packaged together, now you can understand when I say that as vets, you are a viable asset.
Yeah. And I assume is that your personal message to the veteran community?
Absolutely.
There
I can talk this stuff all day. I believe it. I'm not even reading your script because I believe it. It's worked for me personally, and I've seen it work for other vets as well.
So what would you say is what should be the responsibility of our veterans today?
I think the responsibility of every vet, and regardless of whatever, I've met vets from all different generations. And the common thing that I've run into is this kind of almost this downplaying being a veteran. And I believe that veterans, we're a great asset. If you don't know, ask somebody. If you don't know, but there are organizations out now that will help vets try to make that transition, to write a resumes, how to do that. Of course, you've been in the military, but you have to start believing who you are, because obviously you had to be somebody to get through basic training. Where does it matter if you're a Marine, if you're an airman, a sailor, a soldier, whatever. You did something. That's a huge achievement. A lot of people can't do that. Mm-hmm. A lot of people can't do that. So it's something you had to spark inside you to be able to complete that task, to become a serviceman. So you would just apply that to this new part of your life, because life is going to change. Nothing you can do about it. I heard a wise man say that everybody's in that room. Everybody will always be in that room. What room, Sergeant Major? Room for improvement.
Yeah.
Room for improvement. Mm-hmm. You gotta be constantly changing all the time. That's why it's so funny though. Even in my civilian life, when my grandchildren or the kids, young people in my church, they see me walking down the hallway, they all run like rats on the ship because I'm gonna ask who, what, when, where, why.
Yeah.
Because
Wow.
we're human beings. We're meant to grow. Nobody stops growing. Nobody.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm so glad. Yeah, people, especially the ones that are so tough on themselves, they need to hear that message more often. So, Sergeant Major, where can people reach out to you?
They can reach me out on a website called speaksergeantroy.com. It's all one word, Speak Sergeant Roy, Speak, SPEAKGATROY.com. There's a link on there that says book a session with Sergeant Roy. I'd be more than glad to talk one-on-one because I'm really sensitive about making sure people get the correct, I guess it's the Sergeant Major of me, but making sure people get the correct information because especially my brothers and my comrades, I look back on my life and my greatest achievement, if anything, when they put me in the ground, is that to have become a soldier. And you know that as well, being a military member. I mean, you've heard people say, you guys are weird. You guys, you meet, you can have met each other for 2 minutes and you act like you've known each other forever.
It's
And
true.
right. And the thing is, why is that? It's because we've all taken the rite of passage. We've all gone through it. And that's the common bond that we will always share together. And the rest of the world doesn't have that. That's okay if they don't understand it. But that's what the bond that we share together. And I'm so appreciative of organizations like you guys doing this broadcast and reaching out to the vets. It just means a whole lot. Appreciate it.
And thank you so much for your service and for the service that you continue to offer to our veterans. We're very, very grateful. And so we'll have to have you back again so you can keep
I'll
inspiring
come
us with
back.
your words.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Thank you.
Put the whistle up there. I'm right there. And that's what I do. I go around and I speak to not only my audience is also corporate, nonprofit organizations, but my special audience is also the military I stay connected with. I've got a couple of opportunities coming up next year. I'm going down to the famous Tuskegee Institute to talk to our fellow officers and stuff and give them a piece of my mind,
Yeah.
snatch the
Well,
slack out.
we'll have to hear about that next time because that's all the time that we have for today on the Veterans Radio Podcast.
Thank you.
So join us next time at 1 p.m. Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern Time. We want to thank all of our sponsors and our veterans and, of course, our guests, Kevin McCloskey, John Bird, and, of course, Sergeant Major Roy Lewis for being here on the show. And please share this message. Thank you all for your service, for the support for this community. Share this episode, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.